Hello! Welcome to DIY is my happy place. I'm Amy, and today we're going to be having a two-part segment. Part one is how to create a puzzle mirror. I'm calling it a puzzle mirror because I put together a bunch of little pieces of wood from a tumbling game from the Dollar Tree to create a fantastic mirror. And the second part of this will be all the rest of the gold and blue decorations in my bathroom. So we are going to really have a good time today, and I will put a link at the end of this video for part two. So make sure you click on that one as well. Now, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe and share this video out where you can. And don't forget to ring that bell to all so that you'll be notified when I put up new content. And let's have some fun. This mirror decoration can be done for under $20. I picked up this mirror from Walmart and it cost $5, and then you use some wooden game pieces from the Dollar Tree. Now, to start off, I want to show the difference between using a regular glue gun and using a Gorilla glue gun. This is actually the first time I've used a Gorilla gun, and I didn't really know if there would be a difference. And you have to use the Gorilla glue, and it's not that much more expensive, but I just definitely wanted to see if it would really make a difference. So I'm testing two different types of glue and two different ways to glue them, because when I first made this project, I actually used wood glue because I wanted it to be really strong. But the problem with wood glue is it takes a long time to dry, and I wanted this to be able to dry quicker. So I tried it, and here is the regular glue gun, and I really had to kind of pop in order to get that one to come apart. Now with the regular glue gun, it just pops right off with the long sticks, but it was actually really strong. Now, it's not going to hold the weight of all of this. It just needs to be able to hold it in place long enough for me to give it the extra glue that I'm going to do, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute. So the answer is I love the Gorilla glue gun, and I'm going to be using that for a lot of things to come. Now, the first thing I did was just started putting my little wood pieces down in a format, whatever kind of came onto my mind, and just glue them into place. And the idea is I'm going to have two sides be exactly the same, and then the other two sides will be the same, but all four sides won't be the same. Hopefully that makes sense. So I figured out if I laid out my little wooden pieces, I could glue them as I go, and I wanted it to mirror itself along the way. So that is what I'm doing here, and I have to say it's pretty satisfactory. Again, the first time I made this, I used wood glue, and it really didn't hold its position, and they kind of started to bow a little bit, and it wasn't just precise like you can do with the Gorilla glue. So definitely recommend, if you're going to do this craft, to get yourself a Gorilla glue gun and some Gorilla glue. Okay, now I'm just moving things around, whatever happens to catch my whim, trying to make it so that it has a little bit of an interesting pattern, and again trying to mirror it on the other side. Now, one thing that I did figure out as I was going along, that I can glue them down and then just literally take the pieces on top of the other pieces, glue them together, and then flip it over. I'm going to show you that in a minute. But right now, I'm still just working on figuring out my pattern so I know exactly how I'm going to do this process. And I have to say, it's really fun and kind of therapeutic to be just putting things together like this. As I was going along, I felt like I was in one of those puzzle things that you have to try to mimic it over on the other side, and my brain was like, can I do this? Yes, I can. So much fun. Okay, now I'm going to do the second side. I want this side to be different so that the top and the bottom are going to be the same, and the two sides of the mirror are going to be the same. But, and like I said before, not all four sides will be the same. And then I'll connect them out on the outer edge as soon as I get this laid out in a format that I can enjoy and have fun with. One thing I will say is you need to glue this down. I actually have brown paper underneath it, and then you have to kind of shift it around every once in a while just to make sure it's not gluing down to the paper. And I think I did about just periodically. Every once in a while it did glue to the paper, and that's what I like about the paper instead of a regular table, because then if I tried to lift it up to get it unglued, it might break the pieces apart. But because I have it on paper, I'm able to lift it and then just kind of tear the paper off, and I can sand that off later if it's too much. And actually it really never was too much. Now on this, you could mimic this exactly, or you could create your own style. Now this is what I was talking about as far as making the pieces right on top of the other pieces, gluing them together, and then I will put them out on the other side. And this really helped, because if I'm on the other side and I'm trying to look over and mimic it, it's actually harder than you might think. And since we're using the hot glue gun, it will hold itself into place really fast. So I actually glued this in 3 different pieces, and I left the last 2 pieces not glued together just to make sure that it would fit on there without any gaps before I finished gluing it all together. And that really sped the process along. And I have to say, this really goes together fast. I mean, this is one craft that goes together, well, just depending on how fast you work with a glue gun. I think this was 3 Dollar Tree tumbler game pieces in order to make this. Now this is quite large. It doesn't have to be as large as this if you don't want to, but I really wanted it to be a statement piece in my bathroom, so I made it pretty big. Actually, I've made 2 of these now. I've made a gold one, and now I'm working on a silver one, because different rooms in my house, it would work better for different colors. Now, here's a little trick that I always like to do whenever I'm using a hot glue gun, and that is, once it's all glued down, take a hairdryer and really heat it up on all sides, and then you make sure you get all those little strings that you don't notice until later on, and then they look like there's some sort of a spider web. So definitely taking a hairdryer to any hot glue project is highly recommended. Now, this is how we're going to make this solid. We're going to use the tongue depressors, popsicle sticks, whatever you want to call them, craft sticks, I guess is what they call them in the Dollar Tree. And we're going to glue it down with liquid nails. Now, I'm not sure if any of you have ever worked with liquid nails before, but it's really not a hard thing to do. I've used this same holder for my liquid nails for a very long time. In fact, it's getting kind of dented and bent. It's probably time I get a new one, but it's very reasonably priced, and liquid nails are reasonably priced. They take a while to dry. Liquid nails do not dry quickly, but once they're dry, it's just like it said, it's like nails. I mean, it really holds together. I love to use liquid nails in my crafts. Now, if you've never used one of these nail guns before, it has little grooves on it that will sit there and push the glue through. So you just have to turn the lever until your glue starts to come out. This glue I've had for quite a while. I had it for a different project, so it's kind of left over, and I hadn't ever opened it, but it's been in the garage for a year or 2, so it's a little thicker than if I would have just bought it today, but I don't like to waste anything if I don't have to, so went ahead and just lined my decoration with some glue. Now, it looks messy. and it is messy, but it is so worth doing this. Now, I do recommend that you wear gloves because it is so sticky and it'll get all over you if you don't have gloves on. Now, what we're doing with the tongue depressors is making sure that we put a tongue depressor over anywhere where there's a seam, where it meets together, because that's where it's going to be volatile. And I would recommend that you make sure that you reinforce the holder for your mirror, because this is going to be a lot heavier than it originally was, and you don't want that to pop off and break your mirror and your decoration later on because the back holder isn't strong enough. Okay, now after that's all done, we just tape the mirror real good and then start spray painting. Like I said, I've done a gold one and now we're doing a silver one. Now let me talk to you about spray painting. The number one thing that you want to do is be in a very good ventilated area and put your spray paint on in light wispy strokes. You do not want to put spray paint on thick or it will run and it'll take forever to dry. It's much better to do light strokes and do multiple of them than to do it too thick. So I always just kind of swirl, swirl, swirl and just keep on painting. The thing I love about doing spray paint is it will get all the grooves all at once. Now here it is after it's dried, and you'll see once it's dried, and this is 2 or 3 days later. I had this done before the weekend. It really dries solid. So that is a wonderful thing. Now, we could be done here if we wanted to, but I actually like to fill in the gaps with some putty just to make it so it doesn't look like it's a puzzle piece put together, but that it's one continuous stroke. It just depends on what look you want, because the puzzle pieces is kind of an artistic thing in and of itself. So that it just whatever your style might be. It would be best to do this before you spray paint. After I spray painted, decided, wait, I wish I would have done that. So I came back and did it. But it's a waste of that spray paint because I'm going to have to spray paint it over. So once you get your putty all the way down, if you take a wet washcloth, you can wipe off a lot of the excess so that you don't have as much sanding to do. And again, this one, I wanted to see what it would look like. I'm kind of doing this in steps. I wanted to see what it would look like if I didn't sand it. So I wiped it all off, put a coat of spray paint on, and took a look at it. And actually, it definitely looks best if you sand it. A little bit of light sanding goes a long way with putty. Now, I'm going to put some rivets on, and this is the funny thing. I got these googly eyes from the Dollar Tree, and they had the rivet look to me without having to bang them into the wood and break it apart. So I decided I'm going to put googly eyes on. Then once I spray paint it, you'll never know it was googly eyes. So this is just one little trick I just made up as I was walking along the Dollar Tree aisles one day. And as I started to put the googly eyes, I hadn't even decided for sure where I'm going to put them. And so I started to put them on one spot, and then I'm like, no, I think I want these just on the outer edge. And they come in 3 different sizes. There's an extra large, a medium, and a small size. And I'm just kind of making this up as I go along. You'll notice that you can still see the putty, and ideally, I would have done no spray paint until all of this is done. I would have put the putty on, sanded it down, then put my googly eyes, and the final thing would be spray paint, and I wouldn't have wasted any spray paint. But I will say, it didn't take a full can to do it, even though I had to do a couple of coats of it. Now look at these little googly eyes. Once you spray them, they look like I guess you'd call them rivets. I love the look of it. It just lifts it up and gives it a nice embellishment. Now, the embellishments that you put on these mirrors could be a lot of different things. You could use the little gem strips or the acrylic diamond sticky strips that I use so often, that I pick up from Walmart. And again, I did not sand in between, so I'm doing everything backwards. So do what I say, not what I do, if you want to make this project go a lot faster, and that is sand before you paint. Now, the one thing that I will say, whatever it looks like before will be magnified when you put paint on. So if there's a little groove or a little bump, you'll notice it even more once you put spray paint on. But again, learn as you go. That's the way I look at it. It's an easy thing to do to just put another coat on. I like putting a tarp down and then putting it on something else besides the tarp to make sure that I don't have any overspray. And I do this in my driveway. Now, I will say, in Nebraska, in Omaha, it is very humid this time of year, so I like to bring it in to dry. I'll say that when it's winter, I also bring it in to dry because it's too cold. Spray paint likes the same temperatures that we like. Okay, now let's talk embellishments. I have used this table runner for many things and then different types of bedazzles. But this table runner I actually got maybe from Hobby Lobby, but it's so many years ago I can't even guess where I got it. But I've used it for so many different things, and it just has this really nice looking silver beading that you can cut down to any size you might want. And I love adding it to look like rivets. So I've got my googly eyes on the outside, and I'm going to use this for string lines down the middle. Now, we don't want it to be too over the top, but just add a little something to make it glammed up a little bit. Okay, so I'm using my fancy new hot glue Gorilla Gun. I'm sure some of you have already gotten into the hot glue Gorilla world. I'm new to the table, I guess. But I love how it is very strong glue. Now, I use different glues for different reasons. And I will say that I love the precision that I can get with the tiny glue gun. And now I'm going to add some gems. These are the same gems that I use on a lot of different projects. Now, you can use the super glue if you'd like, but this hot glue gun works just as good, and you don't have to deal with the smell, and it dries a lot faster. Okay, so I'm just gonna add a little gem here and there, and I'll put in the link below where I got these, and so if you're interested in doing the same thing. Now, one thing that I would say, if you're making this particular mirror and you want it to be just like mine, you can freeze frame the finished product and you can then puzzle it out just like this. And it will be very easy to manipulate and do the exact same thing that I have if you'd like to. Now, I went ahead and glued those down. Now it's time to reveal the mirror underneath and hang it and see how it's going to look in the room. Now, again, I've done two different ones, one for the bathroom, which is gold, and one for a bedroom, which is this silver one. And I have to say, now that I'm getting these done, I'm thinking there's other rooms in my house that would also be glammed up by having a mirror like this. I absolutely love it. And it's pretty fast and easy. I'd have to say it's one of my favorite projects. Now, here is my gold one. I absolutely love this whole thing, so that I've made two of them now to go into two different rooms. These are the different embellishment options that I would suggest. I've got my googly eyes, and then you've got your different types of sticker gems. And you can put them, they don't have to go on every single spot. Just adding a little bit here or there glams it up and just really gives it a little bit more flair and pizzazz. And that's what we're going for. Once you take the paper off the mirror, it will just amaze you how wonderful this do-it-yourself project is. And the whole thing, like I said, the whole thing can be done for under $20. That's including the liquid nails, buying a liquid nails gun, everything. Now, I have to say, that is a fantastic project. There's my little gems that I got from the Dollar Tree, which I used on my mirror frame that goes around my other mirror as well. So it kind of ties it all together. So this is the perfect wall hanging to go with my blue and gold bathroom design. And it ties in nicely with my towel bar that has a beautiful prism on the end. And it also ties in with all the other gold accents that I have in this bathroom. Once I got this mirror hung, I couldn't believe how much I loved it. I just know that this is one of my favorite do-it-yourself projects I've ever done. And then as I scan around, you can see the rest of the bathroom. And I'm actually going to be doing these crafts in 2 parts because there's so many different things that I did here. The other ones go together much faster than this one, so I'll put them all in part 2 of my DIY bathroom makeover. So go ahead and click on the next video and you'll be able to see exactly how to do the other parts of this craft project on my bathroom. Also in the link is a tutorial to show how I painted the linoleum and cabinets in my bathroom if you haven't seen that one yet. Thank you so much. Don't forget, there is part 2. So you just click on this video right here and you can get to the other half of this series. And if you'd like to see how I painted the linoleum floor in the cabinets, click on this video right here. And I'll see you again soon.